What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the channel. I'm Christopher Lee. This is Christopher Lee Shreds. Today we're talking about guitar cases. You know, what do? I've got so many guitars. They start to accumulate, and as a collector of guitars and as someone who feels like, you know, guitars are tools, you got to put them somewhere. So where do you put them? Well, in cases. And the thing about cases is they start to build up. And they're not all built the same. No case is equal. So, because of that, let's run through some of these cases. I'm going to run through some of my guitars. Well, I got them all out, so let's just run through every one and see what do I do with my guitars. And is the case that I have for it worth it? Is it any good? How's it holding up? Because a lot of these guitars have just been sitting. You know, this is more of like I'm storing them in these cases. I'm not gigging with these things, because if it's a gigging situation, personal opinion, gig with a hard shell. Don't gig with anything else. I would not take a soft... You know, this is for practice. These are for practice. This is not for gigging. So if you're going to practice somewhere in a buddy's house or a studio somewhere or whatever, somewhere where you're not going far and it doesn't need to be set down, otherwise get a case with a lock if you're gigging. And then as soon as you're done with the show, you immediately put that... First thing that should happen is those guitars go into a vehicle and they get driven away. But yeah, let's check out cases. Chop up some footage here, but you know, I would definitely organize your cases by maybe brand or superiority. No, but for sure these cases, you're gonna want to, you know, make sure, like, this is a good case. This was for the Fender Esquire. You know, the Fender Esquire is already kind of relict just through the sands of time. It's got a chip just from natural abuse. It's got some neck pocket cracks. You know, it's got all kinds of stuff. You know, but that's okay. It's literally built to spec for like 50s era. So I don't mind it getting a little beat up. So it can go in this case. This case has held its ground fairly decently. I do have some complaints for Fender about this case, which is that there's no hook or anything to grab right here. You know, maybe some other models have that, but this wasn't a cheap case. It's like 50 or 60 bucks. Can't remember, somewhere in that ballpark. But you know, you can hold it like this, and it's got the, you know, shoulder straps, which is nice. But if you're like me, and you're not really gigging, it's just kind of gonna hang out in the room. And if you look here, it's like I've grabbed it from the top portion so much that it's indenting. Just, you know, from sheer moving it like this. It's a bad habit. I've stopped doing it. But yeah, some of these cheap cases, or, you know, gig bags, they have a little handle. So, you know, but it's still a nice, well-fit bag. And I store it against the wall, because that's where that one goes. Okay? So, next up, this guitar. Now, again, I sort of think that if you spend a lot of money on a guitar, it should come, if it doesn't come with a case, you need to spend a lot of money on a good case. So this one comes with the Gatorcase. Well, it didn't come with it, but I bought it. So, you can't skip out on a guitar like this, a limited edition Telly. You can't give it a weak case. So this case actually has like lights and fancy stuff in it. Let's go ahead and grab you. Too bad. So the light mechanism, because it's the LED, is kind of gimmicky. It pretty much takes like eight AAA batteries or some malarkey. It takes a lot of them, and it doesn't last. You know, it has this buttons where it's supposed to not sense, but I think just, you know, for some reason, it just consistently drained batteries without me really trying. I would hardly ever have the case open and batteries would just get consumed. And, you know, it's easy enough to put them in and out, but it seems like a waste of batteries for just a really cool effect that, you know, only you will appreciate it. No one else really cares. So the light part is kind of dumb and gimmicky. The case itself, pretty nice. It's got a great new case smell. It smells like my Telly. So, you know, and it fits well enough. It was advertised to fit a Strat or a Telly. You know, but there is a little bit of play there. So I wouldn't toss and bang it too much. I haven't had any issues with it, but You know, just that little bit of play is enough to make you wonder, would this thing be roadworthy? Again, advertised that it would fit a Tele or a Strat. But in my opinion, it is a bit of a tight squeeze. So, again, I don't know if I'd gig with this. This guitar itself was supposed to come with a deluxe molded Telecaster Fender case. When I bought it, you know, I saved some money on it. That's probably part of the reason why I saved money on it. You know, you save money when they don't give you the case for these sort of things. But, you know, this case itself wasn't cheap, so I really think, you know, and it did come with a lock, which is nice. It has the locking mechanism. But again, it would be nicer if it was a bit more of a snug fit. You know, I would be paranoid if I was traveling with this. You know, if it had to go on a plane, which is what they're kind of advertised to be able to do, because it has that, you know, these locks, and it's got, you know, the name tag here. Like they advertise that it could go on a plane, but I don't know if I'd put this one on. So it's a good case. It was a little pricey, a little gimmicky, but, you know, pretty decent as far as cases go. All right, so back to that same type of situation, you know. You've got a vintage guitar that I would never gig with. This is the RS 430 Back to the Future guitar. This guitar doesn't get gigged with. It's not gonna get gigged with. It's a at-home, use it for recording guitar. And the case that I use for it, don't worry, with the power of editing, we'll make this look good. The case I use for it is right here. Now this case, let's go ahead and flip the camera here. This case is a nice Ibanez branded case. It is the Power Pad by Ibanez. As far as soft cases go, this is the best one I've seen. It's got compartments everywhere. And my favorite part, if I can get it open with you guys, let's see. Sorry. My favorite part is it has this real thick neck strap. Real thick. So, you know, you can honestly just really secure the heck out of it while it's in there. It's not going to move around. It's fairly thick as far as the padding goes. And it is by far probably the most expensive gig bag I have, but it's the best one. So, you know, kudos to Ibanez. It has everything here. It has the handle, which I've complained about with the Fender one. No handle. But yeah, the handle's very sturdy. Everything on it's super sturdy. I don't know how it would, you know, how long it would last in a gigging situation, but it's got these leather sides and leather straps. I mean, you know, again, I'm kind of maybe not the best person to talk about with gigging, but, you know, because it doesn't get gigged. So, but to store my vintage McFly, you can't go wrong. And, you know, that's a great, you know, I think if you have a guitar that you want to protect, you know, that is basically something you don't want to get damaged, this case is perfect for you. It'll fit snug, it'll fit perfect, and it's not going to break the bank. You know, I've seen, you know, but yeah, it did take a long time to ship here, and I don't know if you can find this exact kind anymore. But yeah, the Power Pad. Excellent case. All right, so vintage instrument requires a nice case. So I have the thermometer, I want to call them, for the Les Paul. I think that right there for the Les Paul is pretty much the standard. I wouldn't want to have a different type of case for a Les Paul. I've seen other styles, but this right here is perfect. And the Les Paul case, I would say it's great because out of all my other hard shell cases, it's probably the lightest and the smallest, and it leaves the smallest footprint. So, you know, this one's old, this case. Definitely looks like it's probably from the 80s. But it does the job, and I wouldn't store a vintage instrument on the wall. I just had it there for fun, just for looks. But yeah, don't do that. Okay, so this is the boy Squire. it comes with a very small, cheap bag. Probably bought secondhand. Nobody knows. But it's mini, and it fits this guy. Zero padding, so I wouldn't ever gig with this. The guitar itself needs some work, so until it can be tunable and hold its tune, it's probably not even really gig worthy anyway. So I would say stay clear of this budget brand because it's just not working. Alright, YouTube. So check it out. This is probably one of my favorite cases, but I just realized I've made some sort of grave error. I'd read on the internet that it's okay to store these Ibanez guitars with the trem arm on because the case can still close. Well, it did still close, but because my trem arm is sitting a little high because the action's a little goofy on this right now, the springs need to be adjusted. But it's sitting about high. It's sitting high. It needs to be low. But I would say even with it low, I don't like what it's doing. It made an impression right here. And it's basically ate right into the padding. Now that's a nice little impression. Basically, I don't like it because it's going to take away the solid foundation that is the squishiness of this thing and the snug. So if it's going to take away the snug, this is going to have to go right back on the wall, which is fine by me. So this is going to go on the wall next to its brethren. They both look alike because they're very much alike. Well, they all three look alike, don't they? So back to the wall of RGs. So, okay, so we got to give a shout out to this company right here, Vevor. You know, I'm going to give a shout out to them because my buddy, my best friend, he gave me this guitar. And because, you know, if you're shipping your guitar out, you don't want to have anything happen to it. You know, no damage, nothing like that. So, you know, he gave me a guitar, this one here. So you got to give a case for it too. So, you know, you've got a case for the guitar. So it's a very beautiful guitar, a very great case. The guitar made it here from Washington to California. And, you know, there's no real damage. It does kind of feel dented right here. I think maybe it took some impact on the butt end, just because you feel it, and you can see some buckling there. But you know, the case did its job. The guitar did not come with a broken headstock. The interior is very soft, very nice. It smells great. New case, you know. And my buddy said he paid a really fair price for it. I would definitely check it out. You know, you get stuff for half off, basically. It's really affordable. And, you know, the guitar itself, it had some battle scars when it got here, but I don't know if that's from just, you know, it being a 20-year-old guitar, or if these battle scars are from, you know, the road, as they say. But, you know, it's got a little nickage there. And then in the back here, it's got a little crack in the... Sorry for the fingernail polish. I was touching up another guitar here. It's got a little bit of a heel crack in the heel joint, but it's just a surface crack. It doesn't affect anything. But, you know, those things could have been worse or made worse or, you know, could have been a real problem had this case not done its job. And, you know, it did its job. So, and he packed it real well, too. So, he did a great job of packing it. So, you know, kudos to this case company for helping out. Okay, so now we'll do a quick comparison here. So this case is for the RG7620 1998 Ibanez. This case is served its battles. It has been gigged with. You know, it's got obvious and visual dings, but it's done its job. And it does come, you know, with a locking mechanism where it's really easy. I kind of prefer that, but granted, those things are very pickable. So, fast forward to 2018, and we have a case right here. You know, and I kind of did the same thing here. You can see right there a little bit of that. Storing it with that. But yeah, this case, now that I'm looking at it, you know, it's really snug. It's really... This case, I would say, is gosh, you know, now that I'm really comparing the two, I mean, we don't have as big as a storage compartment, but you know, you have all your goodies in there. Your tags, your QC stuff, your COA. Well, they don't really give you a COA, but you think they would, but they don't, considering this was a $2,000 guitar, basically. 1,800 something. But yeah, it is a very nice case. The latches, they're superior, I would say. You know, you look at these latches, they're old, they're rustic, you know, doing its job. But yeah, this one is a very firm, big, you know, and it does have the keys, so it's lockable. It's just not the wheelie lock, which I kind of like the wheelie lock, but you know, that's just because it's fun. The reality is this is probably, or is that even a lock? No, this would be the lock. I guess you can get your own lock, huh? It's even got the option to get your own. You can padlock it right there. You know, if you really wanted to, people could break into it still, but maybe that's the thing. There was no keys, but that, now I'm just seeing that. Or is that a key mechanism too? Nope, I don't know. I feel like, well, everything's in here. Let's see. Give you these awesome tools. Yeah, that's it. There's no key. So, you know, and then you have a pick from the Colt. That happened. I don't know where I got this pick, but hey, probably from the Colt. So, yeah. Now that I compare the two, the newer Ibanez cases are great. They're a way snug fit. I like the little handle right here. Easy to grab it. It's not moving. It doesn't move. It moves when it moves. The case moves. So I don't think it gets much better. You know, perfect case. So these new cases, thumbs up. All right, and here you go. I would say last and least, because they're just for these two Squier guitars. You know, this is they're both. I mean, this neck truly belongs with that body, and it becomes a Squier 2 1993 or something like that. But you know, that body is plywood and garbage. So you know, there's videos on it. I got a better body, another Squier body. And it plays like a dream, and it's super light, little neck divey, but it's so nice. You know, such a great neck. So, but yeah, for something like this though, I don't really care what kind of case. So this is the cheapest case you could find on Amazon. They're what? Cahaya. However you want to pronounce it, Kia. You know, it has a neck strap, very thin. You know, really weak, but it's gonna get the job done. You can put it in there. It does come with the handle, which is great. You know, love the handles. That way, when it's in there, you have something to lift it up by. You know, and it's great for these cheaper guitars. So you gotta have to think about what you're putting in these cheap cases. And again, I'm not gigging with these. I wouldn't really gig with this. This isn't gig. Don't gig with that. Gig with this. That is the gig. This is just, you know, it's in a closet. It's in the corner of the room, and you want to protect it because it's protection. So, and these are very cheap. I think these were less than $30. So for less than $30, you can get something that is going to protect your guitar, but it might not be, you know, gig worthy. So know what you're buying. All right, YouTube. So that's pretty much it. What did we learn from this? Probably nothing. But what you can take away from it is that, you know, pick your cases wisely. Are you gigging with it? Are you not gigging with it? How much padding is there? Do you, think about, like with my Fender case, if it doesn't have certain handles on it, you're going to grab it, instinctively a certain way, and it might wear out inappropriately. Like that one is, probably the top part of it's probably gonna rip eventually. Think about, cost-wise, efficiency, and think about what you're actually putting into it. Most of the better guitars out there, like the Ibanez Prestige, that Fender Tele I have, all those guitars are going to usually come with a very nice case. So you shouldn't have to worry about that if you're going to spend the premium money. But every now and then you buy secondhand, you buy through Reverb or something, and you're not going to get those cases. So you might be forced to buy a case, in which case you may need to shop around. Gatorcases seem very sturdy. If you're on a budget, those that budgety one that my buddy sent me, the Vevor Vernon, I already forgot the name, but that was a great case. There's also other websites out there like Guitar Fetish where you can get some really nice looking cases for really cheap. So all kinds of options out there. I would stick with something that has been reviewed. So that's why I'm letting you guys know how I feel about these cases. So if you took the time to watch, thanks a lot. Like and subscribe.